Solo podcasts available Tuesday and Friday 6 p.m. AST on Spotify. And website will be found. Solo podcasts available Tuesday and Friday 6 p.m. AST on Spotify. The website will be found. Solo podcasts available Tuesday and Friday 6 p.m. AST on Spotify and website will be found. Low podcast available Tuesday. Website will be found.
Stop hiding. Brand yourself like a pro. Here's the hard truth. If you're hiding online, you are invisible. And invisible people do not get hired. They do not get invited or not and are not paid what they're worth. However, the twist to this thinking is that branding yourself is not only about making a fake, glossy version of yourself. It's about making the real you easier to find, easier to trust, and impossible to forget. So today, I'm going to give you a quick, no-fluff checklist on how you can run in 30 minutes to brand yourself like a pro, starting with your LinkedIn, your About page, and your speaker bio if you are a speaker. If not, you can also use that as a bio for just about anywhere. Most of your social media, you'll probably have to cut it down a little bit shorter, but point being is that it'll be a well-written bio. And you can literally do this today with no excuses. Are you ready? Okay, let's begin. I've worked with professionals who were absolute powerhouses in person. But you would never know that from their online presence. One person that I spoke with had 20 years expertise in her field and was actually leading, some major money projects. But if you Googled her, you would think that she was just starting out in her career. And this person that I'm referring to is what's called an invisible expert. And the worst part is that she wasn't even hiding on purpose. It's just that she had not updated her profiles in years. And she basically said, well, I get referrals by mouth. The right people will find me. And I had to kind of look and say, newsflash, they won't. This is 2025. People don't hire who they cannot see. So here's a mind shift, a mindset shift. That's what I was going to say. And that is that branding does not equal bragging. Oh my gosh. Somebody else said this actually. I have to bring it up because it just I just clicked in my mind. Somebody brought this up last week. I was in a podcast call, and the person actually did an episode that was called Branding is Not Bragging or something like that. So I guess this is where part of my inspiration for this particular episode came into play. Now, depending on when this gets aired, the time and where it was it's going to be really irrelevant. However, I do remember I was in a call with someone named Americo, and he and Keith were doing an episode, which I sat in for a bit of time. And I remember he gave some pointers. I don't remember if his pointers are exactly like mine, but that is probably a slight inspiration for why I've done this, which I guess now is the great time to give both of them a nod, if you will, so that people know who they are. So the person show is Americo Da Costa, and he was interviewing Keith Keller. Both men you can find on LinkedIn. And feel free to look them up and follow their follow their pages and see what's going on within their business worlds. So back to my mindset shift monologue. Branding is not bragging. And it's funny because I think I've also mentioned this in my Get Ahead Marketing Solutions video as well. And that is branding is not bragging. And I'm saying it again, branding is not bragging. I think the problem is a lot of people seem to think that if they say, oh, I am this and I am this, that they are bragging. Here's something that I think a lot of people need to understand. Bragging means that you are not telling the truth. Saying who you are, your accomplishments, is telling the truth. So again, branding is not bragging. A lot of times people, when they are branding, they will take their past and use that as a starting point. I believe very strongly that your branding should reflect a combination of both. You want your old paradigm. You want who you were. You want what you used to be. At the same time, you want to take that and shift the story into who you want to be. Who are you becoming? And so, yes, you want to be able to put that into your branding story as well. Okay. Now, the 30-minute brand audit framework that I like to use is basically, I'm going to break it down into 3 steps, 3 specific areas, if you will, that you can take your time. You can do one at a time. You can do all 3 of these in one go. It's up to you. The first area, or the first zone that I would like to look at, is LinkedIn. And why does this matter? Because recruiters and clients and collaborators will Google your name. And LinkedIn is almost always the very first result for any name. And what you want to do on LinkedIn is you want to make sure that you've got a headline. And in my previous podcast episode, I forget which one it is, I said that your headline on LinkedIn should not just be your job title, but it should be a really short elevator pitch. Okay, so for instance, if you're a marketing consultant, you want to write helping small businesses turn browsers into buyers. Ooh, that sounds clever, right? That's a cute tagline. But anyway, and that's what you would do. So you would write your name, and then you would put that next to it. The next thing that you want to do is a clear, professional, well-lit picture. You want to have one of you smiling, not a blurry crop from a wedding, a blurry crop from a shopping spree, whatever it is. Now, I am guilty of this because I do not like to put my pictures up. And so right now, I actually just have a word, my name as a word. I plan to redo that as I continue rebranding. But yes, this is one of those cases where I'm going to say, do as I say, don't necessarily do what I did. Okay. The next thing that you want to address on your LinkedIn page is going to be the about section. You should write it in first person. And in that bio, you should be sharing what you do, who you do it for, and what happens when people work with you. 3 short points. Okay. There are featured sections, and you can add 2 or 3 of those as your social proof if you feel the need to do so. So you can create a section called articles, and you can create a section called talks, especially if you're a public speaker. If you have special awards that somehow lean into directly reflect your previous career and or previous business like accolades that are now going to influence your current goals that you are moving into, definitely you want to do that. If you want to add in client testimonials, you can as well. But these are things that you can add. I believe the featured section is a good thing to have. However, the thing that is really, really crucial in the whole LinkedIn idea and the whole LinkedIn redo, the 10 minutes give or take, especially if you have the information already written down, is that your headline follows you everywhere on LinkedIn. That's what people will see first and foremost. And that's why that line is so important. Okay, it's valuable real estate, so to speak. So your headline is crucial. Getting it right is really, really important because that's what people will see. That and probably your picture. Those are the 2 things that will follow you throughout LinkedIn, no matter what you do. People will see that. All right. And you want to focus on it as much as you can, and you want to make it as best as you can. So now my second zone that I want to talk about is the About page. The About page is usually found on a website, and the About page is where you weave story plus introduce your authority on whatever topic it is that your website is about. Okay. So when people click the About page, they are not there just to read your whole autobiography. And I've said this in relations to resumes as well. People read the About Me page on a website to see if they can trust you. Do you know what you're talking about? How long have you been in this business? So that's what you're going to focus on as you build the information for that web page. And so a short checklist would be the first 3 lines. You state your value, what you bring, and then you dive into your story. Okay. The second thing that you'll be doing is you'll show your humanity. You'll talk about something memorable if it's applicable, and it's funny because if we were talking, let's say, about heating and air conditioning, you could actually say, hey, I went into this because I remember that one time we had a snowstorm and, we had to wait 3 days before we could get service. And so that became my motivation or my inspiration for creating a 24/7 local service, something like that. So that's where we take our memorable moments and we mention it, and it becomes now I become the human, so to speak, owner of, an HVAC website. The other thing that you want to do on the About page is actually show a photo. You want to have a friendly photo and a way for people to be able to contact you on the same page. So you're giving people a CTA, a clear train of action or a clear focus point. You're showing people that, hey, this is what I look like. And now if you want to contact me, here's my phone, here's my email, or here's my contact page, but they're all on the same page. Does that make sense? And then, of course, you want to be able to show short testimonials if you can. If you have logos of clients that are willing to put let you use their logo on your website, you can also do that instead of actual testimonials. And you can also put in certifications if you need to. Sometimes the photos of the certifications are needed. Certain fields, you must have the certifications. So you upload those if you're certified as well. Now, the third area, the third zone that I feel is important for you to audit and to create a really good SEO/brand framework is going to be that of a speaker bio. And now the speaker bio is, obviously geared to people who do public speaking. However, You also want to have this available on your site if possible, but definitely a downloadable version of it. And the reason for that is that if your company does if your company does events, or you get invited to events to speak, or you get invited to events to host, or you get invited to events to sponsor, you have something for them to talk about or to mention about you. The speaker bio comes in handy for people who deal with media outlets, because they usually just copy and paste what they see. So both organizations actually do that. And you want to make sure that your bio counts, and that it's something that is worth copying and pasting, and that you're going to be proud of it. So you want to come up with a short version. So for instance, you'll say Malcolm Maxwell is the host of Build and Be Found, helping professionals reinvent and position themselves in the digital age. And then you can have a long version of the same thing. But this time around, the long version, you're going to be adding in your expertise. You're going to add in any media features that you were featured in. You will add in any awards. You'll be adding in any personal touches that are not mentioned in that really brief, short version of yourself. And of course, you want to end your bio with an invitation. So a sample invitation would be something like, she speaks on visibility, personal branding, and future-proofing your career. And that would help, because that tells people, oh, if we want her to come speak, she talks about these things. Okay. And a really, really good tip about your bio is that you should keep versions in Google Doc. And this way you have them prepared, and that when you are asked for them, you can automatically send them in just a matter of seconds, because it's already been done. Okay. So you definitely want to create it. You want to save it. And then when you need to share it, you can. So here's our action for today. This is my challenge, I guess. I'm going to give you. It's about a week's challenge. Pick one of the three: LinkedIn, your about page, or or create a speaker bio, and give it a 10-minute power refresh. What you're going to do is you're going to set a timer. You're going to work fast, and you don't want to overthink it. If you picked LinkedIn as your zone that you want to work on, start with your headline. If you picked your about page, then rewrite the first 3 lines of the about section. And if you picked the speaker's bio, then craft a 50-word version or the short version of what you want to say in your biography. The goal here behind this challenge is not if the first time out of the gate, the first time around you wrote it, so to speak, right? That you created the perfect version. It's about getting your thoughts out there on paper first. You can always go back and refine everything that you've done. And that is something that I actually truly suggest that you do, but not necessarily on the same day. So you wait a couple of days, and then you go back and you look at those changes, and then you say, I can tweak it this way, or I can leave it alone. All right. Remember, I think out of this episode, it's been a little bit long. It's been a bit talky. However, I think the key point for this episode is to remember that visibility is a skill. It's not a personality trait. A lot of people try and say, oh my gosh, I'm an introvert and I like to hide. And it's not you know what? I'm guilty of that. When I jump into online calls, a lot of times I like to sit in the back of the room, so to speak. And I sit by my computer and I listen, and I really don't like to say much, but I have to remind myself, just like I'm reminding you, that visibility is a skill. It's not a personality trait. Now, my personality, I'm a little bit more outgoing. That's my personality. However, I do have to learn how to take that outgoing quote personality and make this an outgoing trait, and make this an outgoing skill rather, not just a trait. So I need them to work in unison. Take the personality and make it a skill. And the only way that you're going to do that is by practicing being findable. You don't have to be a loud voice. You don't have to be on everything and everywhere and always, the flashy, whatever. You do have to be everywhere, but you can do it in subtle ways as well. The fact that you have profiles in everywhere and that your profiles are fully developed, that's you being everywhere, but that's not necessarily you being loud. And if you run through today's checklist, you'll already be ahead of 80% of your competitors who are still hiding. And that's what we want. We want to stop hiding. We want to come out of that little hidey hole, that little back seat. If you imagine a huge room and the person who sneaks in the back and stands in the corner, yeah, that's me usually online. And that's usually most people when it comes to their profiles. And that's what we want to come away from. We don't want to be the person in the front, and we don't want to be the clown of the class, but we do want to be the person who contributes, where people look and you raise your hand and somebody goes, oh yes, you right there, third row in the back or whatever, but you're still visible. You know what I'm saying? And that's what this checklist is about. That's what this episode is all about. If you love this episode, I'm asking you to share it with one friend who you feel is amazing at what they do, but they are still a little too invisible online. And if you have not yet done so, please subscribe to Build and Be Found, because next week we are talking about how to turn one good post into 1 month of content without losing your mind. Thank you again for showing up. This is Malka, and see you next time.
Solo podcasts available Tuesday and Friday 6 p.m. AST on Spotify, and website will be found. Available Tuesday and Friday 6 p.m. AST on Spotify, and website will be found. Solo podcasts available Tuesday and Friday 6 p.m. EST on Spotify, and website will be found. Low podcast available Tuesday.